What if you're not actually free, but just well managed? What if your entire life, which feels independent, is actually a sophisticated version of control, with better branding? You think you're free because you can choose between 10 brands of toothpaste, or because you can scroll endlessly without anyone stopping you. But what if freedom isn't about choice, it's about depth? And what if comfort is the perfect drug to keep you numb enough not to notice you're stuck? See, real prisons aren't always made of bars. Sometimes they're made of couches, subscriptions, and the steady drip of convenience. You're not forced to obey, you're entertained into submission. And the scariest part, you think you chose it. This isn't a conspiracy, it's worse, it's culture, and it's working perfectly. So before you defend your freedom, maybe ask yourself, when was the last time you made a choice that actually scared you? Part 1. Freedom Redefined. From liberation to lifestyle. We like to think of freedom as the ultimate human achievement, the final prize, the end of the struggle. And in a way, that belief makes sense. After all, history is full of battles for freedom. People have died for it. Revolutions were built around it. It's the word we tattoo on our minds, our flags, even our bodies. But somewhere along the way, something strange happened. Freedom stopped being a direction and became a destination, a checkbox, something you assume you have just because you live in a certain country or can open a certain app. You see, freedom used to mean the power to shape your own life, to challenge, to question, to reinvent. It meant discomfort, risk, even danger. But now it means access. Access to goods, services, Wi-Fi, streaming platforms. It means options, millions of them. You can choose what to wear, what to eat, what to binge watch until 2 a.m. But choice isn't the same as freedom, especially when those choices are pre-selected, algorithmically suggested, and all designed to keep you exactly where you are, passive, entertained, and manageable. This is the trap of modern freedom. It's not about controlling your body, it's about guiding your attention, your preferences, your time. And all of it happens under the warm, glowing illusion that you're the one in charge. You can pick between 500 TV shows, but you can't sit in silence for 10 minutes without feeling anxious. You can work remotely from anywhere, but feel completely stuck in a life you didn't consciously build. You can scroll past 1,000 opinions a day and somehow never develop your own. So let's be honest, when did freedom become so boring, so quiet, so comfortably numbing? It used to mean rebellion. Now it means express shipping. It used to mean breaking out. Now it means logging in. What happened? What happened is that freedom got rebranded, it got marketed, it got turned into a lifestyle, something to perform, not experience. And like all good products, it came with an upgrade cycle. Today's freedom is sleek, personalized, optimized. But real freedom is inconvenient. It's raw, it's full of unknowns. It challenges who you think you are and dares you to find out who you could be. But the world doesn't want that kind of freedom from you. It wants predictability, consumption, politeness. The system runs smoothly when people feel free but act programmed. So instead of chains, you're given apps. Instead of curfews, you get algorithms. And instead of censorship, you get flooded with so much noise that your own voice gets lost in the chaos. They don't need to silence you if they can distract you. And so modern freedom becomes a paradox. You feel free, but you're not choosing. You're reacting. You're selecting from a menu someone else wrote, thinking the whole time that this is autonomy, that this is adulthood, that this is liberation. But how free are you if your life is shaped by habits you didn't design and desires you didn't choose? We have to stop confusing freedom with convenience. Just because something is easy doesn't mean it's liberating. In fact, the easiest things often become our deepest traps. It's easier to stay in the job that drains you. It's easier to doom scroll than to meditate. It's easier to binge than to confront your own silence. That's not freedom. That's sedation. And here's the bitter truth. You don't become free by having more options. You become free by reclaiming your ability to choose with intention. Not the fake kind of choice, the one that's been served to you in the form of pick your poison, but the real kind, the kind that comes with friction, with inner resistance, with the possibility of loss. Real freedom means saying no to things that feel good, but kill your soul slowly. It means walking away from comfort when you realize it's become your prison. It means being willing to disappoint others to be true to yourself. That's messy, that's risky, and that's why most people avoid it. So here's a question. When was the last time you made a decision that wasn't just convenient, but conscious? When was the last time you unplugged from the feed, from the noise, from the rhythm of the system, and just listened? Not to a podcast, not to a playlist, but to yourself. Because the scariest part of freedom isn't being oppressed, it's being responsible. When you realize no one's stopping you from changing your life, but you're still not doing it, that's where the truth hits hardest. It's easy to blame others when you're caged. But what if the door's open and you're still sitting inside? That's the modern dilemma. We are freer than ever, on paper, but emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, we're stuck. We've traded existential agency for digital convenience, and we've been told that's progress. It's not. Progress is when you remember that freedom is not a status. It's a state of being. It's a muscle you build, a discomfort you learn to tolerate, an internal compass that refuses to be overridden by noise. And most of all, it's a decision, one you have to keep making, over and over again. So before you post that quote about living your truth, maybe ask, are you? Or are you just comfortable enough to stop questioning? Part 2. Comfort as the new cage. Comfort is the most elegant prison ever built. No chains, no guards, no screaming, just soft furniture, climate control, and endless entertainment. It's the kind of cage that doesn't even look like a cage because you decorated it yourself. You chose the wallpaper, you picked the streaming service, you customized the notifications, and slowly, almost invisibly, your life became a loop. Not a catastrophe, not a disaster, just a loop. Comfortable, familiar, repetitive, numb. And here's the twisted part. Comfort doesn't feel like oppression. It feels like safety. It feels like control. That's what makes it so effective. You don't question it because you're not suffering dramatically. You're just not really living either. You're surviving, coasting, drifting in a sea of predictable routines and low-level anxiety. And you call it freedom because no one is actively stopping you from doing something else. Except you are. You're stopping yourself. Because doing something else would mean being uncomfortable. And comfort has become your god. Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with comfort in itself. A warm bed, a safe home, a quiet evening, those are beautiful things. The problem starts when comfort becomes the default mode of existence, when it becomes the filter through which you evaluate every choice. Is this uncomfortable becomes synonymous with, is this bad? And before long, you avoid anything that stretches you, scares you, or demands a version of you you haven't met yet. You trade depth for ease, you mistake convenience for wisdom, and you become incredibly good at staying exactly where you are. Modern society is built around this comfort addiction. Entire industries thrive on making sure you don't feel anything too deeply. Food that soothes instead of nourishes, shows that distract instead of challenge, social media that simulates connection but reinforces loneliness. Everything engineered to be seamless, effortless, passive. You're never bored, but you're never really awake either. And because comfort numbs you, it also delays you. You know those dreams you had? The things you were going to do someday? Comfort whispers, not now, later, when it's easier. But it never gets easier. It just gets more familiar. Until one day you realize you've built a life around waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for a version of yourself that's finally ready. Spoiler, they're not coming. And so comfort becomes stagnation. It becomes that job you don't like but tolerate. The relationship that's not fulfilling but not broken enough to leave. The habits you know are draining you, but at least they're not toxic. The slow decay of dreams hidden under layers of busyness and fatigue. And it doesn't hurt bad enough to scream, but it aches, quietly, daily. That's how you know it's a cage, because the bars aren't made of pain, they're made of neutrality, of softness, of fine. And fine is the most dangerous word in the English language. Fine is how you lose decades. Fine is how you bury your soul without ever realizing you were digging. Comfort even infiltrates your identity. You begin to define yourself by your habits, not your hopes. You become someone who just doesn't take risks. Someone who's not really creative. Someone who's too busy right now. These aren't facts. These are conclusions drawn by a mind trained to stay safe. And safety, when overused, becomes self-erasure. But what's most dangerous about comfort is that it makes the alternative seem radical. Wanting to change becomes dramatic. Wanting more becomes selfish. Walking away becomes irresponsible. So instead of confronting your discomfort, you rationalize it. I should be grateful. Others have it worse. This is just how life is. And just like that, the cage disappears, because now you believe it's home. You see, the trap of comfort isn't that it hurts, it's that it lulls you to sleep. And when you're asleep, you don't rebel, you don't reflect, you don't grow, you just drift, day after day, until one morning you wake up and wonder where all your fire went, where your curiosity went, where you went. And the answer is, you didn't go anywhere. You just got very good at avoiding friction, at sidestepping discomfort, at staying within the lines, and the world rewarded you for it. It gave you likes, promotions, predictable outcomes, a well-managed life. So here's the question. What if comfort isn't neutral? What if it's directional? What if every moment you choose comfort over courage, you're saying no to the life you were meant to live? Because here's the truth. Growth is uncomfortable. Honesty is uncomfortable. Love is uncomfortable. Creating something meaningful is deeply uncomfortable. But that's where life is. That's where freedom actually lives. Not in the padded walls of comfort, but in the wild terrain of your own potential. Comfort doesn't want you to know that. It wants you regulated, predictable, safe. And let's be honest, so do most people around you. Because your comfort helps them stay comfortable too. Your playing small makes them feel better about their own fear. Your obedience keeps the machine running smoothly. But here's what they don't tell you. Choosing discomfort doesn't mean choosing pain. It means choosing aliveness. It means choosing presence over autopilot. It means remembering that being uncomfortable is not a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're moving. So the next time comfort offers you the easy way out, pause. Ask yourself, is this comfort or is this fear wearing a cozy sweater? Because freedom isn't found in your comfort zone, it's found in the moment you're willing to leave it. Part 3. How society trains you to settle. From the moment you were old enough to sit still, you were being trained, not to think freely, but to comply efficiently. Not to explore your own desires, but to adapt to the system's expectations. You learned quickly that coloring inside the lines got you praise, that questioning authority got you labeled, that your curiosity was only welcome when it followed the curriculum. And so, little by little, you stopped asking the dangerous questions. You stopped wondering what else might be possible, and you learned to settle. School didn't teach you freedom, it taught you performance. Memorize, repeat, obey. It taught you that success means doing well within someone else's structure, that the goal is to win the game, not to question who built it or why you're even playing. And if you ever strayed too far from the rules, the punishment wasn't just academic, it was existential. You got labeled lazy, difficult, weird. So you internalized the lesson early, fit in or be forgotten. But it doesn't stop there, it follows you into adulthood. The language just gets more sophisticated. Now it's about being realistic, stable, mature. You're expected to trade dreams for job descriptions, passion for a 5-year plan, wonder for LinkedIn endorsements. And if you question that, if you dare to say, maybe there's more to life than this, you're met with polite concern. Don't be naive. It's just how the world works. Grow up. Society is a master at shaping people not to thrive but to maintain, to keep the machine running smoothly. It needs you to participate, to consume, to aspire, just enough to keep working hard but not enough to rebel. You're encouraged to dream, yes, but only within the narrow lanes of marketable success. Be creative, but make it profitable. Be free, but don't rock the boat. Be unique, but make sure you're still employable. This training works so well because it disguises itself as freedom. You're told you can be anything, but then you're handed a list of what's acceptable. Doctor, engineer, entrepreneur, influencer, all neatly packaged, monetized identities. Try saying you want to live slowly. Try saying you want to paint, or farm, or just be. Watch how fast the room goes quiet. And what makes this even more powerful is the emotional conditioning. You're not just taught what to value, you're taught what to feel. Rest makes you guilty. Ambition makes you anxious. Stillness makes you itchy. Society doesn't need to physically stop you from being free. It just needs to make sure that freedom feels wrong. That way you'll regulate yourself. So you settle. You settle for the job that drains you, the city that numbs you, the habits that shrink you. You settle not because you're weak, but because the system trained you to. It rewarded your submission with small comforts, a salary, a title, a sense of control. And most dangerously, it taught you to call that comfort freedom. This is not a conspiracy. It's just culture doing what culture does, reproducing itself. And if you don't stop and question it, you'll spend your entire life mistaking safety for purpose. You'll think, I'm doing okay, I'm surviving. But deep down, a quieter voice will whisper, you were made for more than this. The tragedy is that many people never get past that whisper. They hear it, they feel it, but they drown it out with distraction, with obligations, with other people's expectations. Because to listen, to really listen, would mean change, would mean admitting that you've settled, that you've been living someone else's script. And that kind of honesty, it's brutal, but it's also the beginning of liberation. Because once you realize that settling isn't a character flaw, it's a cultural design, you can start to unlearn it. You can start to challenge the idea that you need permission to want more, that your dreams have to be practical, that your worth is tied to your output. You can start to ask, what did I give up in order to be normal? What part of me did I mute to be approved of? And more importantly, am I ready to reclaim it? This reclamation isn't loud. It's not always dramatic. It might look like quitting a job, or saying no, or moving to a quieter place. But more often, it starts in the mind. A decision, a shift, a refusal to keep settling for a version of freedom that feels more like sedation. Because true freedom isn't something you're granted. It's something you reclaim from the systems that trained you, from the fears they planted in you, from the roles you were told to play. And once you start, you begin to see the truth everywhere. You see it in how people talk about their jobs with dead eyes, in how they celebrate the weekend like it's the only time they're allowed to be human, in how they fill every silence with noise because quiet might remind them that they've settled. And then maybe for the first time, you stop settling too. You start choosing discomfort over numbness, curiosity over predictability, truth over approval, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it, because nothing changes until you refuse to settle. Part 4. Why real freedom feels uncomfortable. Let's make something clear. Freedom is not always a pleasant experience. In fact, when it's real, when it's raw, when it's yours, it's uncomfortable as hell. You've been told that freedom feels like peace, like flow, like happiness. But that's only the polished version, the final act. The truth is, at first, freedom feels like falling, like being untethered, like looking around and realizing there's no script anymore. Just you, your thoughts, your fears, and the terrifying possibility of having to decide everything for yourself. See, fake freedom is easy. It's the illusion of choice without the burden of responsibility. It's switching jobs but never questioning the idea of career. It's buying things you don't need with money you don't really have, because you've been sold the lie that this is what independence looks like. But real freedom demands that you confront everything you've been avoiding, your traumas, your stories, your assumptions, your comfort. It doesn't coddle you, it wakes you up. That's why so many people reject real freedom when they feel it. Not because they don't want to be free, but because they weren't prepared for what it actually entails. Real freedom means having to decide who you are when no one is watching. It means losing the comfort of being told what to do. It means standing in the center of your own life and realizing no one is coming to save you. That's liberating and horrifying. Because the flip side of freedom is responsibility. When you're truly free, you have no one to blame. No more bosses, no more institutions, no more inherited excuses. It's just you and your choices. And that weight, it can be crushing if you're used to being managed. That's why so many people return to the cage, not because they love it, but because it's predictable, because it's easier to follow a path than to create one. And that's the irony. Freedom is what we crave most and fear most. We long for it in our bones, yet sabotage it when it arrives. We romanticize the idea of being our own person, but panic when the structure falls away. Because when the noise stops, you have to listen to yourself. And what if you don't like what you hear? What if your true self doesn't match the life you've built? What if freedom reveals that you've spent years climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall? That discomfort, that deep existential unease, is not a sign that something's gone wrong. It's a sign that something's waking up. It means you're finally stepping out of the dream. And waking up is always disorienting at first. You're not broken for feeling afraid when freedom comes. You're just not anesthetized anymore. You're not shielded by the endless to-do lists, the numbing routines, the someday fantasies. You're here, you're awake. And that's a vulnerable place to be. But vulnerability is not weakness, it's clarity. And clarity is the first step to power. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how often comfort tries to seduce you. You notice how quickly fear tries to shrink you. And in that moment, you get to choose. Do I go back to sleep, or do I stay awake and live? Real freedom asks you to choose presence over performance, self-awareness over social approval, intention over inertia. That's not sexy. It doesn't come with applause or step-by-step guides. It's not marketed on Instagram, but it's real. And real is what you've been starving for. It's why you feel restless even when everything looks fine. It's why the promotion didn't fix the emptiness. It's why the vacation didn't heal the fatigue. Because your soul wasn't craving more ease. It was craving more truth, more ownership, more meaning. And those things don't come wrapped in comfort. They come through fire. Freedom isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in the willingness to face the mess honestly. To admit when your life doesn't reflect your values. To say, this job, this routine, this identity, it doesn't fit anymore. And then to have the courage to change it. That change will be uncomfortable. People will question you. You will question yourself. You'll miss the illusion of certainty. You'll mourn the loss of structure, even if it was suffocating. But eventually, if you keep going, you'll reach something else, something quieter, stronger, realer. You'll reach peace, not the peace of comfort, but the peace of congruence, of alignment. The peace of knowing that you are living your own life, not someone else's projection, not a brand strategy, not a polished performance. But you can't get there without going through the discomfort. You can't skip the unraveling. You can't bypass the fear. Because that's the price of true freedom. Discomfort, uncertainty, exposure. And that's why most people settle. Not because they're weak, but because they were never shown how to walk through the fire. So if you feel scared, good, it means you're on the edge of something real. It means you're not sedated anymore. It means you're close. Don't run from the discomfort. Lean into it. Let it burn away what isn't true. Let it strip you of the roles you've outgrown. Let it remind you that freedom isn't supposed to feel like a massage. It's supposed to feel like evolution. You're not meant to be comfortable all the time. You're meant to be alive. Part 5, Escaping the Comfortable Prison Before It's Too Late. By now you've probably felt it. The quiet ache, the inner nudge, the slow realization that something about your normal isn't right. That your life, while stable, efficient, and maybe even enviable, feels strangely off. And you've started to wonder, is this all there is? Am I just meant to wake up, work, eat, scroll, sleep, and call it a life? But then comes the dangerous thought, the one society trains you to silence. What if I walked away from all of this? That thought is your first taste of real freedom, and it terrifies you. Not because it's wrong, but because it's real. Because it threatens to disrupt the fragile structure that's kept you numb, busy, and functional. Because escaping the comfortable prison doesn't begin with action, it begins with truth. And truth, for all its beauty, is brutally inconvenient. Escaping isn't glamorous. It doesn't look like a movie montage. It looks like confusion, like isolation, like losing friends who liked the version of you that played along. It looks like walking away from the job that gave you status but stole your soul. Like saying no to the family expectations you were never allowed to question. Like finally admitting that the metrics of success you chased didn't actually mean anything to you. It's scary, yes. But what's scarier is staying. Staying in the loop, staying in the box, staying in the role so long that it becomes your identity. That's the real tragedy. Not that people get trapped, but that they forget they're trapped. They adjust, they justify, they shrink their desires to fit their routine. And by the time they realize how far they've drifted from themselves, it feels too late. But here's the truth. It's not too late. It never is. The door has always been open. The walls of the cage were never locked. You were just convinced they were. So what does escaping actually look like? It starts with discomfort. Not dramatic life changes, but small, defiant choices. Waking up earlier, not to grind more, but to sit with your own thoughts. Turning off the background noise long enough to hear the quiet truth of your life. Asking yourself, honestly, why you do what you do. Who you're trying to please. What you're afraid will happen if you finally stop performing. Most people avoid those questions because they know the answers will demand change. But here's the thing. Change doesn't have to be explosive. It can be subtle, deliberate, slow. You don't have to burn your life down overnight. You just have to stop lying to yourself about what you really want. That might mean taking a sabbatical, not just from work, but from expectation. From the self you've been rehearsing. It might mean trying something completely irrational. Painting again. Volunteering, traveling alone. Saying no without explanation. Sitting in stillness without needing to fill the void. And as you do, you'll feel withdrawal, not just from the comforts, but from the identity they gave you. You'll grieve the life that kept you safe. But eventually, that grief gives way to something else. Clarity. You'll begin to see that freedom isn't found by adding more, it's found by subtracting what's false. That's when you'll start to notice the space, the mental space, emotional space, time, energy, and in that space, something unexpected will return. Curiosity, wonder, desire, the parts of you that were buried beneath the routine, the parts of you that don't care how you look or what you earn or who approves. You'll also notice resistance from others, from your own mind. You'll feel the pull of the old life, the old patterns, the old comforts, and you'll be tempted to go back, to explain yourself, to shrink again. But you'll also remember why you left, why you couldn't pretend anymore, why you chose this uncertain, messy, beautiful road instead of the paved one everyone else applauds. Escaping the comfortable prison isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice, a discipline, a commitment to honesty. You'll fall back in sometimes. You'll forget. You'll compromise. But the difference now is, you'll notice. You'll feel the cage when it closes, and you'll know how to open the door. And eventually the world will feel different. Not because it changed, but because you did. You'll realize that freedom isn't something anyone can give you. It's something you claim, moment by moment, by how you live, think, and choose. And you'll stop chasing what looks free and start becoming what is free. There comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, but quiet and clear, when you realize you've had enough. Enough pretending, enough performing, enough fitting into boxes that were never made for someone like you. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop needing the world to understand. And instead, you choose. You choose truth over image. You choose discomfort over numbness. You choose the unknown over the unbearable repetition of a life that looks fine but feels hollow. That choice doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with fear, doubt, a shaky voice, but it's yours. And that's what makes it holy. Because freedom isn't a gift someone gives you, it's the courage to give it to yourself. Not all at once, but in steps, in moments, in quiet, sacred decisions that no one applauds, yet change everything. You don't need to be loud, you just need to be honest. You see, real freedom is not the absence of constraints. It's the presence of alignment. It's waking up and knowing you're not living someone else's idea of a life. It's feeling your own breath and realizing you're actually here, not just existing, but inhabiting. Fully, fiercely, finally. And maybe that scares people. Maybe it even scares you. Because once you taste it, real, raw, inconvenient freedom, you can never go back. You can never unsee the lie. You can never re-believe the story that comfort equals peace. So here's your invitation, not to change your life overnight, but to pause, to ask, to listen, to question everything that makes you feel safe, but secretly stuck. You don't need to escape your life. You just need to return to it. With your eyes open, your spirit intact, and your definition of freedom rewritten by you. This is your life. And if it doesn't feel free, then maybe it's time to stop calling it comfortable and start calling it what it is. If this message stirred something inside you, don't ignore it. That discomfort, that's not a problem. It's a signal. the beginning of awareness. Share in the comments. What's one part of your life that feels like a cage pretending to be comfort? Let's start an honest conversation. And if you're tired of numbing yourself with routines that don't reflect your soul, hit that subscribe button. Here we question everything. We break the script. We choose freedom, not the kind that's sold to us, but the kind we create ourselves. One uncomfortable, honest, liberating decision at a time.